In this video, I'll be sharing with you a tutorial on how to cut a turtle neckline flare gown. So if this is something you like, kindly hit on the subscribe button. So for this pattern, you can cut it in form of a dartless pattern, or you can use the bust dart technique on it, right? So now I'm cutting this in form of a dartless pattern. So here is the shoulder to bust, under bust, and waist. So I'm cutting the back first. I'll use it to achieve the front. Now the first thing I'll do is to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2. Now all my measurements is starting after the zipper line because I'm starting from the back. Now I'm going to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2, and I'll add half because this dress has a sleeve, and I'll mark. I'll come down by 1 inch. From here I'll be using 2.8 inches. I don't really want to use 2. I don't really want to use 3 inches so that my neckline won't really gape. So what I will use here is, for the back I will use 1 inch for the depth of the neckline, right? Now I'll go ahead to connect. Now from this neckline, now I'll connect this all the way to this point, right? After I'm connecting, I'm going to find my chest line, which is my bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now I'll go ahead to draw out a straight line there. Now the next step I'll take is to go ahead to mark my shoulder divided by 2 here again, and I'll place my ruler and I will connect. So let me go ahead and retake this measurement and make sure that I am in order. So I'll just go ahead and I will connect. So I'm going to divide what I have there into 2, and I'll come out by 1/2 inch, and at this point I'm going to mark my bust round circumference divided by 4. Now from here I'm going to go ahead to connect to this point and take this down all the way to the under bust of my, to the chest line of my pattern. So after I'm done marking this, I'll proceed to marking my bust circumference divided by 4. Then I'll add my sewing allowance. Use any sewing allowance of your choice. You can turn this with a nude crepe, or if you want it to make it in a bridal way, you can make a transparent corset base and then go ahead to cut out your pattern, do a lace placement on it. Now I'll mark the under bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Mark my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance. After cutting that, I'll go ahead to connect, and also connect at this point. So after this, I'll just go ahead to cut it out. Then I'll cut out the neckline before we go ahead to take out the zipper board at the back of this dress. Now to take the zipper board, I'll come in by 1/2 inch from the waistline of this pattern, right? And I'll be extending this up. This is to help the back dress to relax very well. And I will connect. Now just like I said, you can use the dartless method, which is what I use here, or you can use the bust dart technique, where you measure your shoulder to waist in front, then find the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. Now that means your back pattern will be shorter by your bust dart in front. So I'm just using a dartless pattern for this, and this is what you have. Now if you want to cut out your front, you can use this same pattern. All you have to do, because this is a dartless pattern, so all you have to do is just to go ahead to cut out the zipper allowance this way. Now you place this and cut, but for the neckline I'll have to extend it. So for the neckline I'll be extending it by 2.5 inches, right? And I'll go ahead to connect. Now before going to cut out, you're going to measure the neckline of this front pattern, right? And the neckline of the back pattern, including the zipper. So I've already cut out the zipper. You measure that, then take the measurement of the neckline of your dress, right? And then you're going to now cut it out, which you now use the measurement you have to cut out the turtle neckline of this dress. So for the skirt part of this dress, you'll be cutting this in a 360-degree flip, but you'll be cutting it into two. Like, let's say your waistline is 28, right? You divide your waistline by 2. You cut the front separate, cut the back separate, and then you go ahead to join it, right? So now let's start by cutting the front. So for my waistline is 28 inches. If I divide my waistline by 2, it will give me 14 inches, right? So I'll be working with that 14 inches. Now you have to like fold your pattern into 2. After folding that, you're going to go ahead to fold it again. You're going to go ahead to fold it again. Now after folding it again, you find out that you have two blocked edges, like 2 edges that is not open this way. Now this is where you'll be cutting all your measurements on. Now what you now do is divide out your waistline by 4. So my waistline can't really enter this pattern, so let's use a smaller measurement. Now my waistline won't enter this pattern paper, so let's go for a smaller waistline for me to illustrate this part. So let's say the waistline I'm working with is 10 inches. Now I'll now divide that 10 inches by 4. Divide the first one, then divide it. What you will have is 2.5 inches. So now what I'll do is I'll take my tape and I'll place. If I place, I want to draw like a semicircle which is equal to 2.5 inches, right? So I'm going to place it this way, right? This is 2.5 inches here, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead to draw out a curve on this point, right? Draw out a curve that is 2.5 inches. Now what I'll now do is from this point now to here, I'll measure. So what I have is roughly 1.5. So this 1.5 now, I will take it round. The reason why I'm taking this round is to make sure that I have a perfect circle. Probably the first circle might not be that accurate. So I'll now go ahead to take this all the way round. So now after, you notice that there's a slight difference between the first and the second circle I'm drawing. So you'll be using the second one. Now, I also forgot that you will not cut out that your exact waistline. So let's say your waistline is 14 inches, you're going to go ahead to add extra 1 inch to it. That is, like my original waistline is 28 now, and I want to make this skirt, you divide it into 2 because you cut first side and second side and join it. So that 14 inches that you're meant to divide, you will not use 14 exactly, you will use like extra 1 inch, which is 15. That extra 1 inch will be serving as a joining allowance of ½ inch on both sides of your pattern, right? Now this is the same thing. Let's say I'm cutting this, I won't use that 10 inches, I will use 11 inches divided by 4. I will now do my measurements, but I'm just working with this 10 inches because that is what this pattern paper can accommodate, right? Now after this, I will now go ahead to get the skirt length. Now let's say my skirt length, when you're marking your skirt length, you mark your skirt length plus additional ½ inch for joining allowance and additional ½ inch or 1 inch at the lower part for folding or turn up allowance. So roughly, if your skirt length is 4 inches, you'll be adding additional 1.5 or 1 inch to it. So let's say that my skirt length is 4.5. So what I'll do now is to go ahead to mark this 4.5 inches round my pattern this way, and I'll go ahead to connect. So after connecting, I will now go ahead to cut this out. Now what if you open it up, you find out that you have a perfect circle, right? Now, and it's giving you that cone effect already on your skirt, that cone effect that you have that is standing on that skirt. Now you can decide to like go ahead to recut this or use this your pattern on it. Now I'm going to be folding this again, just like we folded this part. Now when I'm cutting out the back pattern, I won't use this exactly, right? I won't use this exact measurement. What I will now do is, remember our waist measurement is 28 divided by 2 is giving me 14 on each side. Then when I was cutting this, I added additional 1 inch to it, right? Although we use 10 inches to cut it out as an example, I'm just explaining. Now if you're cutting this one, you use the remaining part of your waistline. Let's say the remaining part of my waistline that is 14 inches. Now you also add additional half inch to it for folding, for joining allowance to the side, and then making it 15 inches. Now that 15 inches, this back pattern has a zipper. Now you'll be adding additional 1 inch to it because it has a zipper, or 2 inches depending on the zipper allowance you want to use. So now let's say in total what we are working with the back is like 12 inches. Now you're going to divide that 12 inches by 4, right? And if you divide 12 inches by 4, it will give you 3 inches. Now I'll just go ahead to mark and draw out like a semicircle. This is the easiest way to draw out your 360-degree flay without having to do much calculation on your pattern. Now I'll just go ahead to connect. Now after connecting, I'll take the measurement from here to here, which will give me about 1.8 1.7, let's say it's 1.7, and I'll take that 1.7 round. Now I'll connect. Now that same skirt length you use for the front is what you use for the back, but because this is a pattern paper, it's not really up to that, so I'll just cut out with what I have here. Then I'll now go ahead to connect. Now what I'll do is, for this back pattern, I will slit it into 2. Again, if you open it, you have that complete circle, right? For the back pattern now, what you do is you will slit it into 2. Why? Because you have to join this side, one side to the front, and one side will be serving as the zipper allowance. So I cut it this way so that you're going to have the cone effect. So let me go ahead and join this and join this. So if you don't want to like cut and join your sides, what you will do is that your waist circumference divided by 4. All you will do is to add a sewing allowance to it and then cut it in form of a circle shape. So all you're going to do is to go ahead to now join up your skirt and have the cone shape.